Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Port Phillip City Council Planning Committee. The City of Port Phillip respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands we meet on today. We pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. We acknowledge and uphold their continuing relationship to this land. We are meeting tonight in a hybrid style, with some councillors and officers meeting at the Town Hall, physically, obviously, and albeit under strict restrictions, and some councillors joining us online. So tonight we've got 3 councillors online: Councillor Bond, Councillor COUNCILLOR and Councillor Clark. Community participation will continue to be virtual through the WebEx platform for this meeting. This council meeting is being streamed via our webcast page and also our webcast page, and streamings and recording of the council meeting are copyrighted and cannot be altered, reproduced or republished without the express written permission of council. If we experience any technical difficulties, we may take a short break to remediate them. I remind attendees that any member of the public addressing council must extend due courtesy and respect to council and the processes under which it operates, and must take direction from myself, the chair, whenever called upon to do so. Speakers must remain respectful, and statements or questions must not be defamatory or offensive in nature. They should also not be embarrassing to a councillor or a member of staff, or relate to a matter outside the powers of this committee. Item number 1 is apologies. There's no apologies this evening because we were all present. Item number 2, councillors, the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 25th of November 2021 have been circulated. Are there any questions? There being none, I'm happy to move those minutes to be accepted and ask Councillor Martin to second. Thank you. All those in favour accepting those minutes? That's carried. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Councillors, item number 3 is your opportunity to declare any conflicts of interest. Section 4 of tonight's meeting is public question time, and we've received, public question time and submissions, and we've received 3 requests to speak from members of the public. We'll just load these up. I call upon Rocco Sriracha, speaking to item 6.1, which is 154 Acland Street in Kilda. Rocco, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? How are you?
Loud and clear. I'm very, very well. If you just state your name and your suburb, and I'll give you 3 minutes to make your statement, please.
It's Rocco Srirachi. I'm representing, I'm from St Kilda. I'm representing Acland Court. We're residents, and there's 34 apartments facing the rear of Jimmy O'Neill's. And
Welcome.
Residential. So if you ask me a question, I'll just keep going.
No, just keep going. You have 3 minutes starting from now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we're here because we were in the meeting in regards to their extension of their live music and liquor, and extension of the awning in regards to noise pollution. So we're affected because we can hear the live music from all our bedrooms. There's essential workers, and till 3 a.m. So we fear that we need to mediate or just discuss in regards to their acoustics and soundproofing if their liquor license gets approved for their live music. We enjoy their business, and it's great that it's busy, but we need to sleep. So we need a clear part on their soundproofing when it comes to live music.
I have a proper acoustic engineer to sign off on that for all extension, and it's facing the residents here at Acland Court.
Sorry, Rocco, is there more than one person there?
It's myself and Roy. We're partners.
Oh, okay. Rocco, if I can just get you to speak to the item, and then I'm happy to let Roy speak as well.
And professional to sign off on all the soundproofing. So when there is live music, if it does get improved, we can actually see that they've been approved. Because currently I've sent about 4 reports to SAP, Solve and Send in regards to live music. So obviously whatever they've got in there now is not working, because we can hear the singing and music. And regards to their bouncers as well, it onsets afterwards, after live music, and people that intoxicated, it spills out onto the street. And I feel that their security is not keeping them quiet after they just left the premises. So we need to sleep, full stop. And I'm representing 32 apartments on Acland Court because our sleep is really important and it just needs to be considered with council. And we live in a vibrant city and we know that. But when it's Monday or Wednesday night till 3 a.m., we need to sleep and we need the acoustics to be checked. So, and the extension of the live music and the awning as well. So just has to be checked.
Great. Thanks, Rocco. And Roy, if you're there, we'll just ask you to fill a form out after this, but I'm happy to, if you can state your name and your suburb, and I'll give you 3 minutes as well.
Yeah, it's Roy Hansen. I also live in 185 Acland Court, 185 Barclay Street, which is known as Acland Court. Basically, for the extension of the premises, all we want is that to be, properly acoustic engineered with an expert. So, that would shelter us from all of that music coming out of the premises. And we want stricter crowd control when they leave. Extension of live music will, in our opinion, only, make that problem worse, because it's when we hear the noise, it's often when it spills out on the street after people are leaving Jimmy O'Neill's.
Thanks, Roy. If you can hang on the line for a moment, a councillor would like to ask you or Rocco a question, and that councillor is Councillor Crawford. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you hear other noise? Is it like, are the apartments not double glazed or that? Do you hear other noise, given that there are so many venues around Acland Street?
No, we actually hear the Irish singers and the Irish chants. So they're from Jimmy O'Neill. But we don't really... we've got double glazing, Louise, and we appreciate your question, but it's definitely Jimmy O'Neill's music, live music, guitar, band. And
it might be like the positioning of that particular venue, how sounds travel, between buildings and stuff. Other venues like Village Bell, for example, is positioned differently, and even though they are often quite loud on the weekend as well, we don't hear that much from Village Bell, for example.
Yeah, but it's definitely when the acoustic guitars and the singing, and I've been downstairs to witness it, and I had to send a video to Snap Soul and send. So it was definitely Jimmy O'Neill's, but we do appreciate your question, Louise.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Clark, you'd like to ask a clarifying question or a question of the speakers?
Yes, I did, but Councillor Crawford asked my question, so thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rocco and Roy.
I'll ask you for a quiet St Kilda. We love them busy, by the way. That's great.
Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us here this evening. I now call upon James Gallagher, speaking to item 6.1. James, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. If just get you to state your name and your suburb, and then please feel free to start your 3 minutes.
James Gallagher, I'm from Kilda, and I am from Jimmy O'Neill's Whiskey and Ale House. Well, look, thank you for taking the time to access our application. The reason we're here today is we want to be part of the live music scene within Port Phillip and the main activity zone. We also want to survive the pandemic. Although it is potentially coming to an end, the knock-on effect can be clearly seen, and we'll take a new strategy to bring people back to St Kilda. Our reason for this is request to drive live music back to St Kilda and keep the street alive. We believe they're good operators and invested heavily in St Kilda with our St Patrick's Festival live music event in O'Donnell Gardens. We received support from the Creative Victoria Live Music Venue Grant first round, so we want to give that back to musicians. The street has been hugely impacted by the epidemic, and there are not many operators on the street, so we obviously stand out a little. We trade within St Kilda since the council supports live music and welcomes diversity. We are not a nightclub, never intend to be a nightclub, and we're a small venue with a big personality and love for music and culture. We do not have the capacity to be operating big. We are a small venue in a a big fish nightlife zone area. So we are also trying to survive. As you would know, the last 4 years we've had acoustic live music. We've had support for Live and Local, St Kilda Festival, Blues Festival, and are the organisers of a festival itself at the end of Acland Street. We've listed the concerns and raised from the previous meetings, and hopefully we can summarise quickly that concerns were not about live music. Previously, it was about patrons smoking and congregating in the plaza at that time. We've had 2 acoustic reports done. One was done from the council, and one was done by our own qualified acoustic engineer. The strategy that we are working closely with our security company and employ further experienced staff and invest in staff training to assist with communicating to our patrons respectful to the neighbourhood. We are also only looking for an extension of time on the weekends, not during the week. We do know that obviously we are an Irish venue. When they leave, we can only do what's in front of us. But, there is plenty of other venues in the area. We're only trying to align with what their opening times on us on a weekend night. I hope that clears everything up.
Thanks, James. I'll just give councillors the opportunity to ask you any questions if they wish. We usually get the applicant last, but tonight we've got them second. Councillor Crawford would like to ask you a question. James.
James, I was just wondering if with the extension to 3 a.m. on the Friday and Saturday night, would you be considering having live music from like midnight to 3 a.m. or 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. or is it more just to stay open?
Thanks, James.
No, that was the idea, yeah. To have the live music. Now we generally have live folk music, so it's no bands, no bass drums. I think we previously said that we wouldn't usually have a band on after 10 p.m. We're mindful of that. So it's just a soloist really, but it's kind of creating that vibe that we're known for, and that's why we kind of are busy because of that,
Thank you.
Councillor Consolo, go ahead if you wish to ask a question of James.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I need to ask, do the toilets upstairs get used by patrons, or is it just the water closet outside the back door?
Patrons use the toilets upstairs, yes.
Okay. And is there a rooftop over that courtyard?
It is open. But it's not a place where they congregate. It's just basically a toilet. And there's a security base at that back stairs.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Consolo. Any further questions, councillors? James, you've been very open and understanding there. Thanks for hanging on the line. We appreciate that.
I just want to say one thing, that back area...
I'll just call you to order because we're kind of done, if that's all right. So... Thank you, James. I call upon Zanita O'Neill speaking to item 6.1. Again, we didn't receive a statement, so we don't know if this is for or against. Zanita, if you can hear us, please feel free to state your name and your suburb.
Zanita O'Neill, St Kilda. I'm one of the applicants for Jimmy O'Neill's Whiskey Neil House.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Just to elaborate.
3 minutes.
No worries. I've just taken some notes. Again, I'm supporting what James has mentioned. Just to further expand on the toilet situation upstairs. The toilets upstairs, there's 3 toilets. It's enclosed. We don't allow any congregating of patrons. It's solely for toilet use. There's no alcohol or red line fan up there. And the back stairs is actually enclosed. So we've no actual back area at all. We're not asking for live music out on the street. It's solely within the venue. Again, that will reduce our number of patrons within the venue after the 1 a.m. And again, it's only weekend. We're not looking for 3 a.m. Monday to Wednesday, as previously mentioned. And the awning, there's no extension of awning or anything like that. It's solely about creating that live music and being part of the nightlife in St Kilda for live music. And that's all really. It's just to expand on the point earlier.
Terrific. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it very much. Where are we now? We've received one further question to be read out on behalf of the member of the public. I will ask Donna D'Alessandro, please, if you could read the... governance. Donna, are you reading the question or somebody else reading it tonight?
Through you, Mayor, Rebecca Purvis here. I will ask Mr.
Perfect.
Jackson.
The question is from Adrian Jackson, so thank you very much.
Through you, Mayor, the submission from Mr. Jackson reads, The only agenda item for the council meeting on 24 Feb 2022 is about another alcohol outlet within Port Phillip. How many alcohol outlets are there within Port Phillip, broken up into the number of hotels, cafe restaurants, nightclubs and bottle shops? Does the council think that this amount of alcohol on sale is excessive and contributes to social problems within our city? I note that my suburb only has one run hotel with accommodation and a dining room, which I think is sufficient. Does council think we have too many hotels in the city, particularly in some other suburbs like St Kilda? Does council want more or less alcohol outlets in Port Phillip? Does council think that excessive alcohol trading hours into the next day early morning should be restricted or stopped? End of submission.
Thank you, and I'll call upon Donna D'Alessandro to help us with an answer if there's one available for that question.
Through you, Mayor, I'll take that on notice because there's quite a bit of information that Mr Jackson requires, so I'll come back. Okay,
thank you very much for that. That concludes item number 4, councillors. We now move to item number 5, which is councillor question time. Do you have any questions before we move into the reports? Terrific. Let's move to item 6 now. We have one report this evening, which is item 6.1, 154 to 156 Acland Street, St Kilda. Pardon me. Are there any questions in relation to the report, councillors? Go ahead, Councillor Crawford.
I was just wondering, the various installation of the sound attenuators and the various conditions, do you feel that that will alleviate some of the concerns that we've heard from objectors? Is that enough to alleviate some of the concerns of the objectors?
Donna D'Alessandro.
Through you, Mayor, first of all, we need to consider the zoning of the land, and this is in the major activity centre. So the use is allowing this type of premises to operate. But to answer your question, yes, we think that the proposed conditions on permit will suffice some of the concerns raised by the objectors, and in considering the recommendation, we must consider that it is 2 hours. So it's 2 hours on 2 nights, so it's not 7 days a week. And it removes one condition to now allow live music, which supports the direction in regards to the major activity centre.
Thank you for that. Councillors, any further questions about this report? Peter Martin, Councillor Martin, rather.
Thank you, Mayor. My days of attending live music venues have long since gone, and I wasn't aware of this noise-limiting device, which sounds fantastic. If it works, can you give us a little background about the history of these devices? Have they been used elsewhere? Are they successful? And how confident are you that it'll work successfully in this situation?
Michael, go ahead.
Through you, is that working? Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so it's we think, as Donna said, it's a pretty standard approach that we use based on, what circumstances are in front of us. I think in this situation, given the proximity to residential properties and the proposed use until 3 a.m. in the morning and the use of live music at the premises, it's a reasonable approach to take there. We have provided some examples earlier today to councillors of other examples of this in the St Kilda area. Notably, there is a condition to use this or a similar device at the Village Bell Hotel. There's a recent application, and sorry, not that recent, probably 3 or 4 years old now, but fairly recent at, I believe, 47 Blessington Street. We've got consent from VCAT to implement conditions at other premises, notably 1 Fitzroy Street. So that's to name a few, and we've offered our standard wording for the conditions there, which is backed up by the requirement to provide a noise report that demonstrates that these devices are effective and can prevent any adverse noise impacts to residential properties adjacent or near to the site. So in answer to your question, we think it is reasonable. There is certainly a precedent for this technology in the local area.
Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions or comments about this one? Or questions, rather? No comments? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Sirikoff, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for taking so long. As well, can council officers also confirm that during the time that music is being performed, are there conditions on the openings to the building? Like entrances and exits, things like that, so to maybe contain the noise?
Through you, Chair, there's conditions on permit that relate to noise. There's also a condition on permit that relates to the doors and windows to be kept closed. There's conditions on permit in regards to the exit signs and a general amenity condition. So it's all contained to the front, and this is a particular site that I would call landlocked. So there's only one way in and one way out, and that's to Acland Street.
Any further questions, councillors?
And I'll just add to that. There is
Please go ahead, Michael. Thank you.
Condition number 7 that is required to remain closed, apart from if you're accessing the toilet area. So that specific entrance is probably the most controversial, but there is measures in place to prevent that.
Great. Councillor COUNCILLOR, did you have a question there?
Yes, I do. It's an enforcement issue. So say this is voted up tonight and then problems persist with some noise. Can we give some assurance to the objectives on the call tonight, for example, that what the course of actions are? Is it call the police? Is it call the council? What do they do?
Donna D'Alessandro, you want to start us off with?
Through you, Mayor. So there's conditions on permit that relate to noise, and so that's a starting point in regards to if an objector was concerned. And then there's a planning compliance process that we would go through in regards to ensuring that the operator complies with the conditions on the permit.
Thank you. All right, councillors, we have an officer's recommendation in relation to report number, item number 6.1. I'm looking for a mover of this or something different. Councillor Crawford to move the officer's recommendation, and a seconder is... Oh, the alternative, sorry, pardon me. Well... Well, that's what's been published in any case, so it's an alternate officer's recommendation. Who is seconding it? Councillor Copsey, you happy to second it? Go ahead.
Thank you to both the objectors and the applicant for speaking tonight. We do have a challenge at the moment of obviously bringing people back to St Kilda, and it's about that balancing of it is an activity centre and wanting to support the local economy. But in terms of a planning issue, this is in an area which we are encouraging activity to take place. And I do hear the concerns of the nearby residents, but I do feel that the various conditions do address those concerns. And so I am very happy to support. I know that this venue does good business, and which is a great thing to see right now in a St Kilda that is not its usual lively self. So I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Copsey, you wish to speak? Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Fitzroy Street and Acland Street are major activity centres within St Kilda. This is the area where all of our planning schemes and all of our planning conditions are trying to direct activity such as this so that we are not disturbing residents that live in areas that are not adjacent to our major activity centres. So you sort of got to ask the question, if we're not going to approve it here, where would we approve it? This is the location where we want to encourage this sort of activity to take place. This is consistent with our live music action plan. This is consistent with our long-running requests or attempts to activate Fitzroy Street and Acland Street and surrounding areas. It's an extension only on Friday and Saturday nights. The noise limiters, I know over my time on council, we've put them into Itty Bitty, Surabaya Johnny's, Great Provider, Vineyard, Fifth Province, Village Bell, and many, many other places. And I know they have in most instances, in fact, if not all, I'm not aware of any, where we haven't been able to severely reduce, if not limit and end the noise complaints that we have had or we were receiving from most of those venues prior to the noise limiters going in. So they are a good device that does reduce the impact that many of these venues do have on surrounding residents in areas such as this. So fully supportive of this. I know the residents who have, quite frankly, have chosen to live within this major activity centre within St Kilda may not fully appreciate or like the fact that this is going to get approval. But as I said earlier, if we're not going to approve it here, whereabouts in our municipality would we look at approving something like this? So I thoroughly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bonds. Who else would like to speak to the report this evening? Councillor COUNCILLOR, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm a little bit on the fence on this one. From a design point of view, I want to solve the problem by sealing the potential for noise spill up the rear there. When that door opens and closes with just even the quietest person walking out, you're going to have noise spill. And if it was just the ground floor, I would suggest putting another door at the end of the water closet there. But because people are going upstairs as well, that's where it's a bit hard for me. But I realize that and I note that the area of license doesn't include the toilets. So I get that the alcohol is not coming out, but the patrons still are. And I know that people like to go in a buddy system where the conversation continues as they go if they are in pairs or more. But I do want to give the benefit of the doubt to the management. They're going to be very mindful and good neighbours on this, and that the neighbours should be very if there's issues, raise them with the venue possibly first, and then go through the avenues of what we've heard already with the police and compliance. So it does sound like a place I'd like to go, and I think I want to give them the opportunity, but be very mindful of that noise spill, that when that door opens and closes, that music is coming out. Even if it's for a second, that second wakes you up.
Thanks, Councillor COUNCILLOR. Councillor Sirikoff.
Thank you, Mayor. I would first like to thank all the residents and the applicant for meeting at the St Kilda Town Hall last September so that both sides could air their views and concerns regarding the operation of this Jimmy O'Neill's tavern. The situation, as already mentioned, is that Acland Street Mall is a commercial zone 1 area, which neighbours a residential development area as well. So while Acland Street Mall is a major activity centre, we all want it to thrive and to be successful. We also need to consider the amenity of the nearby residents. From the recommendations put forward by the council officers, I see that the submission of the applicant and the concerns of the objectors have been listened to and addressed in this recommendation, whereby the operation of the premises is subject to both stringent noise attenuation conditions for the operation and maintenance of a noise limiter, and also a stringent management plan to address the consumption of alcohol and movement and activity of patrons both inside and outside of the premises. So I'm supportive of what's being presented to us, and but as Councillor COUNCILLOR said, that I think that the operators do need to be mindful of how they operate, and hopefully their management plan will be fully supported and delivered by their staff.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Sirikoff. Final call. Let's check my phone. Okay. Councillor Crawford, would you like to close? All right, just a reminder on the voting process for this evening. Obviously, you're welcome to call a division before or after the vote is taken, but given the hybrid structure, we do it under normal circumstances because I can clearly see everybody's hands to determine a majority of votes. You can call a division before that occurs or after that occurs. So I'll now put that motion to you, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? No, that motion's carried. All right, move on. Urgent items of business. Item number 7. It's actually 8 on my agenda, but I presume it's number 7. No, there being none. We move to item 8 rather, which is confidential matters, and there's no confidential matters here this evening. There being no further items of business, I declare this planning committee meeting closed. Thank you, councillors.